Assalamualaikum and good morning. Welcome to another session Zaid Ibrahim podcast. And today our conversation will be with a well-known writer, Muhammad Hussein. And we're going to talk about his book, 7 Missed Chances for Malaysia in Nation Building. This is the book. I want to show you the cover. If you have not read the book, you better go and buy this book. It's very well written, very informative, and we learn a lot from this book. So, welcome, MH. I call you MH.
Please.
Yes.
Thank you.
As you know, MH is, he was mainly in the corporate world in Maybank for many, many years. But I think he was still involved in some corporate companies as directors and things like that. Yeah, so he's a corporate man. But today we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this country. The book has, briefly, the book has got this narrative about where Malaysia, our beloved country, where we may have gone amiss, or we may have gone off the radar a bit in towards progress. You know, the author described it as our missed chances. He itemized 7 of those chances, opportunities that we could have done better. And the book opens with this poem by Robert Frost about you walk in the woods, you see the roads diverge, and the poet decided to go this way, the road less traveled, and presumably that is a better way. But we'll never know, because it's always hindsight that gives us that wisdom, so-called. So I'm going to start, MH. I'll call you MH.
Please.
What prompted you to write this book?
This book, despite its title, and actually the bulk of the book is about the 7 chances, but actually it's about the future, about going forward. I mean, I ask myself, we are almost 65 years into independence. Where are we? Are we on the right track towards nation building as foresaw by our founding fathers? A nation based on kesejahteraan, harmony, prosperity, and tolerance. So, after 67 years, we're still grappling with social issues. Basic issues about harmony, about being a Malaysian instead of being Malay, Chinese, and Indians, instead of being a common race by now. And what prompted it really was sometime in 2017 or 18, and prompted by the one MDB issue lah. So we were, if you look back, we were almost an emerging tiger. Not almost, we were considered an emerging tiger by among all the emerging countries. We were a role model, not just for our South Asian economies, but for the Muslim world. They look upon us with envy. We seem to have been on the right track as an emerging nation, multiracial emerging nation. There was harmony, and we were simply ahead of the others, both in education, infrastructures, and legal system, and banking, for example. So then suddenly you began to see an erosion of values, and to the level that we were almost a laughing stock. We seem to have derailed ourselves. That's why I paused and said, "What brings this about?" So the very first draft of this book, I managed to look up this morning. When the old draft was actually called "My Oh My, What Have I Done?" It was it revolved around one MDB. Then of course I so I tried to trace what are the 7 events looking back that we could have reflected and asked ourselves, did we make the right decision at that point of time, from the perspective of nation building? And the first one was actually quite obvious choice, because I often wondered many times why we did not declare Merdeka when Japan surrendered. You see, America dropped the first bomb on Hiroshima on the 6th of August 1945. On the 9th, they dropped the second bomb. The Emperor Hirohito surrendered on the 15th and declared that they would vacate all the occupied territories in Malaya, Hong Kong, Singapore, Indonesia, Guam, Philippines, immediately upon surrender. So, including Malaya, of course. So, just 2 days later, on the 17th, Sukarno and Hatta declared Merdeka. I mean, Indonesia was not a unified country. They had no resistance army as such. Basically, they weren't organized to be independent. But they took the chance, more to forestall the Dutch from coming back. The Dutch were their colonial masters for 350 years. So, but the Dutch was, of course, far away in Holland, which is. But they took the chance, and that galvanized the country, and make the country, the people, ready to fight the Dutch if they come back, which in fact they did. But that news must have carried over the radio. Our leaders must have heard it. Our people must have heard it. Because at that point of time, radio was no longer banned by the Japanese, so everybody had access to that news. And what did? We instead of following suit, because we could, we were on our own. Japanese were already announced they were vacating. The nearest army was in Goa. This is not a traditional victory where an invading army come in, landed, put out the bandera and declared this is our land. The nearest British garrison was in Goa, India, about 21 sailing days away. So we had that period. Why didn't we declare Merdeka? Instead, we as if we call back, we tell the British, please come back and rule us. This country is yours again. Mana dalam dunia ada that situation. So that prompted me to the mischance there was that we could have declared Merdeka. Of course, if you read history books, history is written by the winners. The British were the winners. History book would say that if British had not come back, we would become communists. So I asked myself, how many communists were there? So I did some research, including our archive, National Library, British Library. There were 15 battalion of 400-ish, 6,000, scattered all over. So, but there was 2.5 million of us. So we could have put out a fight.
Okay, so that's your first missed opportunity was the independence. We had to wait 12 years later, so-called. And then you also itemize other seminal events that had taken place, which really changed the course of the country. You talk about UMNO, the inability or the unwillingness of UMNO to embrace Jaafar and make it a multiracial party. You mentioned about, of course, the May 13, the new economic policy. You mentioned also about Mahathir's 2020. And of course, towards the end of the book, you talk about what's in store for the future, what your hopes are. But I want to go back to your missed chances just now. Of the 7 that you have itemized in the book, which one would you consider the most significant, the most impactful in the way that this country has gone off the rail, as it were? Which one? Is it education? Is it May 30?
Several times people have asked me that question,
Yeah.
and I must confess, several times I gave different answer because
Okay, never mind.
But having thought through that, it has to be the NEP.
NEP.
It has to be NEP.
That's what I thought you would say. Yeah.
Because if you see NEP, you see before NEP, Malays owned, according to NOC,
Yeah.
the NEP was a product of the NOC.
Yes.
Malays had about 1.9% of the economy. The rest were controlled by the British and the Chinese.
With the Chinese. Yeah.
So, NOC conclusion why May 13 happened was because economic disparity. That economic disparity happened because we made the wrong premise when we formed Merdeka. The premise of forming Merdeka that these three different races, Malay, the Chinese and Indians, with different culture, different languages, different religion, and more important, different economic status, can coexist and live happily ever after in harmony without assimilation and integration.
Without integration. Yeah.
Again, mana ada dalam dunia.
That is our first mistake.
That was our second mistake.
Second mistake.
After missing that. So the solution of an NEP was that we must reduce this. Increase the Malay punya
Economic
Malay
cake.
punya economic punya. And there were several recommendations. Actually, the attempt to increase Malay thing was even before NEP. NEP, Ibn Razak had this theme of land for the landless, job for the jobless, and sending people like thousands of settlers to Felda, and which worked very well. Because don't forget, Malays after the war were ready for hard work. We were all hardened by the war. Then we had, 30,000, 40,000 Malays prepared to go to the jungle and settle. And also, there was no NEP then.
Yeah.
There was no expectation of easy life. We were prepared to work. So we should have leverage on that and increase persuaded the Malays and the rulers who had responsibility for the Malays should also have joined in and persuaded the Malays to basically work harder.
Yes.
Follow the teaching of the Quran,
Yes.
فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا وَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. After every hardship come ease. Susah dulu baru senang.
Yes. Yes. And that, I think that philosophy or that belief system, it was absent in our quest for quick returns.
The way we teach Islam.
The way we teach the religion.
So that NEP focus on increasing ownership. I think this is where we make I would say a fatal error.
Fatal error, yeah.
Because we focus on ownership.
Ownership rather than work ethics. Yeah.
But in fact, there was a document, a sentence in the NOC that we must increase Bumiputera participation.
Yeah. Not
30%,
ownership. Yeah.
30% is an economic target in the corporate. But if that is the goal, you beli sajalah. You buy 30% here, 30% there, sampai. But it cannot be sustainable. But more important, owning a share in a business is not the same as running a business.
Running a business, yes.
I mean, you were involved in business as you know.
I was lousy businessman.
Doesn't matter. But you know what is involved in running a business, and it's very different from just owning shares.
Yeah, yeah. Now, this is where I want to come back to you, which you touch also in your book. In your book about the education, education. You see, we may have a different economic model. We may have a different education system. We may have different emphasis in those early years. But some people say, that you cannot transform Malaysia unless you transform the Malays. It's the other way around, Now, transforming the Malay is not easy. You would agree with me? Transforming Malay values, Malay aspiration, Malay sense of importance or whatever, that must be difficult. Don't you think?
Yes and no. You see, it's not the problem of Malays per se. Don't forget the Malays in southern Thailand, the Malays in Indonesia.
Yeah, of
You go
course.
to southern Thailand. I go to Patani quite a lot. I got some heritage there.
Yeah.
Malays in Patani are different. They work very hard.
Yeah.
And those businesses that operate, the Malay businesses,
yes.
they stay in their workshop house. They run a business shop house, duduk di belakang rumah, or atas rumah. And they work very hard and they succeed.
But I'm talking about Malays here.
So the Indonesia pun sama. So you have to Malays in Indonesia, in Malaysia, yang
Yes, the problem one.
That's right. That's the problem. And well, we had ample opportunity to change attitude. You're right. It's difficult to change the Malays, but we had that opportunity to change the Malays. No, you have to go back to the World War. You see, World War, everybody was hardened by the war. After the war,
Yeah.
everybody was hardened by the war. There was no expectation of government assistance. You talk to your parent, the grandfather, they tell you how hard life was. So if we had gone Merdeka, Malay would have no problem working very hard to improve themselves. So they were prepared to work hard, as was proven later when Malays were prepared to go to Felda. But NEP created different expectation. Because NEP was, the way it was implemented, NEP was nothing wrong with NEP. I mean, we all are beneficiaries of NEP. I myself am a beneficiary of NEP, but mostly through education. But I think that was the biggest success story of NEP on the education. And you want to change the Malays, it has to be through three elements. One is education, the way we teach Islam, and the rulers have to play that very, because we are a feudal society. We
depend on the rulers.
We talk about the British. We blame the British for divide and rule. But if you look carefully, what do you mean divide and rule? Actually, there was a economic policy during the British. But the British economic policy during the British was the Malays duduk di kampung, plant only rice and some fruit crop. The Chinese, the Malay that they brought in, work in the plantation, work in the mine, and do the commerce. Logically, if you are a businessman, if you are British, katakanlah, masa tu kan, you buka plantation, you buka oil, you are a worker team, you're not workers. Of course, the nearest workers are the natives there, the Malays. We would have been their natural choice as workers because we are tak payah bawa daripada sana dia. And the rulers masa tu, as being responsible the Malays, should have encouraged the Malays, pergilah kerja, dapat duit sikit, because the British were very careful of not encouraging the Malays to go into cash crop.
Cash crop.
No cash crop. So if everybody had done their part, our leaders, the rulers, we would have responded to that. So that's the leadership. There was a failure in leadership. Education as well. Education, if you look at the six independent, every single prime minister that we have had, now 10 of them, every single one of them have had a stint as Minister of Education. And everyone began their term with recognizing the importance of education. But nobody ended their tenure with a statement that I have done. That our education has much improved since I took over.
Okay. I just want to pursue this education bit. You see, I know in your book you were somewhat critical of Mahathir's handling of the economic policies, particularly his obsession, I call it, about grand projects. He wanted to push, corporate Malays, millionaire Malays. He wanted to push it too hard without the groundwork being present, without the ecosystem being suitable for that. And probably that accounts for the failure. But on the education part, I remember Mahathir was the only Prime Minister who invited a top academician. You remember Professor Musa?
To be a
Muhammad Musa. He was a chancellor of university science, But Musa had problem, as you can remember, in UMNO. He wanted to do so many science and this maths and this priority, but he couldn't last more than 3 years because for some reason the Malays wanted more Islamic education, Islamic flavored education. So that's the problem, I think. That is one thing what we want to do, we think is good for the Malays, but until the Malays themselves realize the importance of that progressive, secular, modern education, it cannot be done. And I think the failure of Musa and Mahathir in that respect, I think it's not for lack of trying. Don't you think so?
Yeah, but that's where I made the point that explain the third, the fourth mistake. May 13. We know this is a problem. May 13, NOC had all the power.
NOC, yes.
NOC had all the power to even force the Malays.
Yes.
There was no parliament. There wasn't parliament. You don't tell them, makes only one school, make. Melayu, kerja study.
You could have done a lot more.
We could have done a lot more.
Yeah, I agree with you.
A lot more. So
fantastic idea.
But education, even Mahathir, the very first slogan he came up with, bersih, cekap dan amanah. Remember?
Yeah.
No, if Mahathir just stuck to that, all our problem would have been solved. Tak payah. Even Vision 20 would have been well implemented if he had just stuck to that. Why? Bersih, of course. Integrity.
Clean.
Cekap is what? Having the skill. Knowing how to do things. The skill and the key resources. That's education. So, his problem was, and amanah, of course, amanah, bersih cekap amanah is, again, integrity lah. If you had focus, if you had say, okay, cekap is part of my slogan, I must have policy that align to cekap. So the issue is alignment. He may have cekap as spell out what cekap mean, kan? Civil service pun must be cekap, meaning you must have the best of people who to enter civil service. We must produce skill in various fields. Our education must be good. So education policy must be aligned to produce cekap Malaysians. So there was no alignment between what you want to do and what they did. If we had done right, NEP was based on bersih cekap dan amanah, then Vision 20 would have carried us way above the others.
Yes.
This would have been, we would have been way above the others if we had preceded, stuck to that, implemented NEP on that, and Vision 2020, Malays would have been more ready to take advantage of the opportunities.
Okay. I want to get back a bit. Why do you think Tun Razak? This is something baffles me. Why is it that after 2.5 years of Mageran, the emergency, May 13, why was he in a hurry to call back Parliament? Why? Was he under pressure?
A lot of I'm a late bloomer in writing. So by the time I wanted to write this, most of the people that I needed to talk to pass away.
Yeah.
So
the reason I ask you is I'm always baffled by that. I don't understand why we needed to.
In my book, I offered an explanation.
Yeah.
There were of course pressure. But maybe some of those pressures would require Dr. Razak to do a thing which against his maybe his.
Okay.
Dr. Razak was a good person.
Yeah, he's a gentleman.
That's why when people say that, we have to do that because we don't want to. He may become a dictator. Dr. Razak never in those 21 months displayed any dictatorial tendency.
Yeah.
Not even self-enrichment tendency.
Yeah.
If the country needed a benevolent dictator,
that must be the
he
guy.
was a perfect model.
Dr. Razak would have been perfect. Yeah.
During that time, the emerging economies, Taiwan was a dictator. Korea,
of course.
Korea, Indonesia was a dictator. Philippines was a dictator. Lee Kuan Yew was.
And Singapore was a dictator.
The whole world. So there was no problem having to explain to the world why we have to suspend Parliament.
Yeah.
So there could either be two kind of pressure. One is a pressure to do things which may be against the conscience of Dr. Razak. So he said, "Oh, I don't want to have." Maybe I'm just speculating.
Yeah, speculating.
The other is maybe too much pressure about. No, let's show the world that we are democracy. We are part of the Commonwealth. We wanted to show that we are a model of Manchester, or not Manchester United, apa dah? Sorry,
Westminster.
Westminster punya model of democracy. So, by the way, I'm not Manchester United, I'm a Liverpool fan.
Okay.
So,
How convenient. Yeah.
so apa dah? Westminster model. So maybe there was a pressure to call and project the work. On the very day we call back Parliament, kelahi dah. Sini Basagam dengan ada PAS dengan ada kelahi dah. So we missed a lot. We missed
Yes. Now, okay, I just want to come back to this. As you said, the book is about the future, right? And you have given some views about whether we should improve our economic model, our NEP, our education, and so on and so forth. Looking at the future, I find the greatest obstacle is actually religion. This is my own take. Because not that religion per se is bad or Islam is bad, it's the way we are using religion for politics in this country, I think has gone too far. It's so much so that it destroys everything that we're trying to do. Now, as you can see today, the two main Malay parties, PAS and UMNO, they're all riding on this religious, bandwagon, I call it, and because of votes, Now, but I don't see it anywhere in the near future of it be receding or even, disappear. It'll probably get worse. So, with all the best of intention and all the best plan to move forward, how do you overcome this religious boogie?
Well, part 2 of my book is actually about going forward and I put a certain framework how to move forward. But don't forget, we must acknowledge this is not going to be an overnight game. Not even you cannot do this over 1 term, over 2 term, or 3 term even. It takes at least 1 or 2 generations. But we must make the first step. We must. Confucius said the first step. The first step of a thousand journey begin with a single step. So we must make the first step. And the reality is, whatever idea you want to do, you want to be in place before we can handle the religion issue. It is in the hands of the politician. The reality is political leaders set the direction.
Political leaders set the direction. That is true.
Whatever you may say. So, but just before we go into that, you mentioned about religion is the main case. I want to qualify that a bit. The golden age of Islam, when you produce thinkers, medical, astronomers, scientists, everything. When we were the Islamic civilization was even considered as the light that created the Renaissance. That happened only from the year 800 to 1200 AD. 800 AD, Arab before that was a pagan country. 800 AD was only 200 years after Nabi Muhammad wafat. In other words, if Islam became great during that period, and great both in in temporal as well, the dunia dan akhirat kan, produce thinkers and mathematicians and other architects, everything, it must be driven by Islam. Islam was just fresh from the press and just 200 years.
Yeah.
So it must be Islam that drove that. So if Islam here is the problem, and you think of other Islamic countries, still great. It is the way we teach Islam here that is a problem.
The politics of Islam here.
The politics of Islam.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
The politics of Islam is the easiest politics to play because of race-based politics. We have race-based politics past. We have all based on race kan. The only way you can come up within your party is to play the race card because politics is based on race. And the Malay card, senang sekali, agama lah.
So Malay-Muslim combination.
Malay-Muslim, that's right, agama. So who is going to fight under a race-based politics? China.
So how do we dismantle this? Okay, that's what I'm coming to. How do you dismantle this race-religious politics?
it needs a firm hand. It needs a firm hand. It needs a firm. First, you must have a leader who believes that. You must have a leader who believes that this is the way forward. And two, you must give him enough power, and he must have the confidence to have enough power to do that. Now, this, I don't know whether this amendment about no third term is in place. But kalau no third term is in place, then like America, you only see US president being more brave in the second term because they have nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. First term, the objective is to be popular so that you get re-elected. But second term, most people are more conscious of their statesmanship because there's nothing to lose. Okay, you can go either way. So you can also be on the other side, nothing to lose anyway. So, but if the leader has a high conviction, then he has to start with that. High conviction, enough backing to do that. And whilst my book does not ends at 2022, because I do not want to touch the current administration, which is only too new to comment. The reality is we have to ask ourselves: is the current because are they pursuing the agenda, pursuing that aspiration?
You talk about the current government.
No, if you want to talk about the future, it has to be based on another. The foundation for the future has to be laid by the current government.
Yes, of course. I don't think this current government is doing that. I mean, that's my view. I don't think this government is reformist at all. Absolutely not.
We have to start with intention dulu lah. I mean, if you let's take. I promise myself I don't want to talk about the current government, but I suppose.
But never mind. You can comment on what I said.
Okay. I'll comment on what you said. You see, the current government, the policy framework is Madani, right? Madani. Actually, I read about Madani before it's announced as Madani. In 2022, I think Anwar produced a book called Script for a Better Malaysia. S, sustainability. C is care. R is respect. I is innovation. P is prosperity. T is trust. Then it become Madani. Madani sama juga. M Mampani. A is kesejahteraan. A is kesejahteraan. D is daya cipta, innovation. A again is hormat. A in hormat. N as in keyakinan. And I is innovation. I is integrity. Whatever lah. So script and integrity sama lah. No, that is a great vision. And if you look at not so much the script, the book script, is a more goes into more detail, the Madani, how this is to be. So I learned more about script, about Madani by reading script. And I as far as intention is concerned, it reflects the right direction. And I remember reading a review of script by one Malaysian writer based in London. I think Shanan Shah or something. She writes for, I can't remember. And she said she used the analogy of theatre, the script kan. You must have a script. You want to make a better Malaysia, you must have a script. But a script has to be played. A script is not a play until it is performed. To perform, you need a director. The PM lah, the government is director. You need players, the ministers. And you need supporting infrastructure, the lightman, the propsman, so smaller, and you need the audience, the rakyat, to give feedback bagus tak bagus. So the script is here. The challenge for the government now is to have policies that are aligned with the script. Education is one of them. Integration is one of them. Economic reducing the wastage, the leakages from the that you see from the almost perennial disclosure by the AG, over billion per year is one of them. So the script is here. Now it's up to the I mean, I can understand that the government, of course, the priority is to survive, and because if we are not, it's a apa ni, what do you call that? It's coalition kan. A lot of compromises have to be made, but looking on on balance, there are several lapses like in that alignment. But if you look in totality, on balance, there are some good signs coming from there. Of course, the lapses are big lapses, which we not mention here, but they're big lapses.
Okay.
But I think on the whole, the intention is there, the steps are there, and
So
Madani,
you are hopeful lah.
you have to be lah. I mean, you have to be but you have to be lah. I mean, otherwise. But the point is, that we're talking about the next 35 years. It's not you or I. It's the next generation. It takes at least 2 generations. We can only make the first step, create awareness. This book is just about to create awareness.
Sure.
I
think it's it's a commendable effort. It's a commendable effort. I think more people.
Still the awareness. That's education against company.
But well, okay. I just want to tell you this. Every leader, every one of them, will come out with a big plan, with a big script. They all come up with a big script. And if you judge our leaders by the script, they're all very successful. The problem is they don't implement them. Okay? Now, so that's why I want to ask you again, how do you get out of this vicious circle of this politics that we have? I mean, this politics of Melayu, and Islam, which is the main narrative of this country. How do you get out of it? How do you produce people who talk about things outside that? Because, okay, I give you another example. Not only we have problem in the peninsula. I mean, Sabah, they have their own, as you know, regional priorities, their sense of, they feel aggrieved by some historical neglect, whatever. So we have so many issues. So I think to find that leader that you said were brave enough to give you it cannot be by this normal process. I don't think so.
Yeah, but the reality is we have to live with what we have.
Yeah.
For the next 2 years.
Yeah.
We have to make the most of what we have. But what we have, at least in terms of statement of intent, that intent it seems good, in line, compared to the. I mean, this is the closest to what we have now. Looking back, is actually Vision 2020, in terms of wanting a single race, wanting all the elements of Madani kan. So this is more thoughtful punya policy framework. But like I say, it is just a script. It has to be performed, delivered. So
okay.
But it cannot do that you need some element of forceful measure.
Okay. What about you? Are you interested in politics?
No.
Why? Because this is what I hear every day in this country.
Yeah.
People are concerned about the future of this country. And they have ideas, they've got good intention, they've got good brain. But you need somebody to get into the play. If you don't get into the play, then you will have riffraffs in the play.
Agreed. But
how do you overcome that?
Well, there are many ways to serve the country.
Yeah, of course.
I worked for Maybank my entire life.
Sure.
I always told.
But my question is, you're still young. Why can't you go into politics?
I will survive.
Why not?
I will survive. I will.
You survive in the.
I use a word in the book when describing what happened to Kuli as chakating. Chakating is our Kelantan word that means tackle from behind for bottom. So in fact, I've tried serving I was appointed as chairman of one government agency. I didn't survive 6 months. I think within 1 year I was asked to leave.
Yeah. So you know the difficulties of it. Yeah.
But the difficulty evolved around observing. I mean, complying with political so-called political punya agenda. In this country, if you cannot rationalize, why you have to do things, you say strategic or political agenda. It says that. Or Bumi Putra agenda.
Okay, thank you, Amish, for coming to talk to me about this. I think we need more sessions. There are a lot of other issues that you have raised. We have no time. But before we end, I just want you to talk a bit about your first book, which is equally riveting, equally interesting to read. Can you please tell the readers about your first book?
The first book is Seeking a Life Balance.
Seeking a Life Balance, yes.
Life balance. I've always been a believer in living a balanced life. Especially, when we work with Maybank, we work about 12, 14 hours a day. You cannot maintain that unless you're able to live a balanced life. So those early period was very much a balanced life in terms of life, working life and family life. But this book is not just about that. I mean, the first book, Seeking a Life Balance, is more about dunia dan akhirat.
Oh, see.
Akhirat. See, as you get older, you get more religious. You read more religious books.
Yeah.
And in this the media, there's always this viral thing about orang Melayu or Islam tak payahlah cari dunia sangat. Kita ni ada akhirat, tak payah tumpu sangat atas dunia. The Quran never said that. There's a verse in the Quran that says ayat surah Al-Qasas ayat 28 is ayat 77. Allah says buatlah dengan apa yang aku bagi untuk kamu rumah di akhirat. Mana work for you. But do not forget your share of the world. Do not forget your share in this world. In other words, dunia dan akhirat. Dunia akhirat. So we have to be successful in this world and in the next world. So my interest in reading that is that is Islam. This back to the story about kerja itu ialah suatu ibadah.
Ibadah.
I did not tell you. Kerja itu suatu ibadah which I saw on TV. Islam supports strong work ethics. And if we follow the strict work ethic of Islam, we'll be successful. The ayat that I mentioned just now, Surah Al-Shariah 5 and 6. And so inna ma'al usri usra. So surely every hardship is followed by ease. Surely every hardship is followed by ease. Allah repeat twice. Not many places in the Quran where the same word is twice. And in other words, work first. Persevere first. Try first, enjoy later. Kita nak enjoy dulu. Enjoy dulu. Tak nak kerja pun. That is a basic problem. Teach the way we teach Islam. So my book, Seeking a Life Balance, is about changing the way we teach Islam.
And the book is available still in the market?
Right now it's out of print. I'm hoping to make a second print. It should be available next month.
So maybe we'll have another talk like this.
Boleh.
If you are not so busy.
InsyaAllah.
Anyway, MS, thank you very much for
Pleasure.
spending time with me, and I hope the listeners will learn something from our conversation, and then perhaps please go and read this book, and also Seeking a Life Balance. That's your other book.
Just one qualification though. I mean, I write a book about Islam, but I'm not a Islamic scholar. I only pencil whatever I write in that book. Verified.
No, you are already a scholar.
I write about politics, but I'm not a politician. I write about history, but I'm not a historian.
Yeah.
I write about economic, I'm not a trained economist. So this is just
but that's what
thinking.
That is the best we can do. Yeah, that is the best we can do.
Thank you, right, for inviting me.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thanks.
I've got a hat to give you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Cuba minta this hat I give to my guests.
Good for golf. Wow.
You play golf, yeah. But it says make the Malays great.
Very Trumpish.
Very Trumpish. I got the idea from Trump.
Yeah. Well, he won 2 terms.
Yeah, I don't know. This is just for friends.
No, thank you very much.
You play golf?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So that's a small present. Thank you
Okay,
again.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
Yeah.